Good morning, Dripping Springs. Today is January 20th of 2020. Big moves happening in the country. One president leaving, another one coming in the midst of a pandemic that has ravaged the nation. Before we get into that, we have State of the Drip, and before we get into that, Connor and I are just going to talk for a bit. So Connor, you said you saw a movie this week. What was the movie that you saw?
Oh yeah, I saw Valley Girl. It's like from the 80s, early 80s.
Okay, what is it?
You heard of it?
No. Tell me about it.
I mean, it's either hit or miss for most people, I think. It's about like some punk rock dude. There's barely any punk rock in this movie. So it's some like punk rock dude that falls in love with a Valley Girl. Like, you know what a Valley Girl is, I'd assume. So
A Valley Girl or a Valet Girl?
Valley Girl. Sorry,
Okay.
my bad. I just kind of woke up.
You're
so
fine. You're fine.
I'm not really good at enunciating. I used to do theater and all that.
So you've got a real posh, like California, kind of like a little spoiled, and then with a punk rocker.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's an interesting movie. And then I would try to watch Blade Runner, but I fell asleep. So
the original Blade Runner?
Yeah.
Okay. The new one was pretty good. It's not really new at this point, but the more recently released
yeah. Well, like
Blade Runner.
I don't know if it's just Ridley Scott or what, because like every time I tried to watch the movie Alien, fell asleep during that too.
Really?
Yeah.
I find Alien to be a little bit more gripping than Blade Runner. My thing with Blade Runner is that so much time is spent trying to make the world super like in depth and realistic that sometimes I just get lost in like there's not enough happening.
Yeah.
For me to latch onto, but they're good movies. They are.
Well, I like the
noir I get where you're coming from.
Like, I love old movies and stuff.
But our generation has ADHD out the wazoo.
Yeah, basically.
In a way that they didn't, and like we need more stuff happening all the time.
That's what's up with the Marvel movies. That's why those are taking over.
I don't disagree with you at all. By the way, I feel like those are basically just like Instagram feeds turned into a movie where it's like action after action after action. I completely agree with you there. That's the business model, is like make it so that it's like something's always happening,
Yeah. And I saw I saw a funny meme. It was like the boomer doomer meme or whatever it is. It was like, thank you for changing my life. And it was like, I'm just a green screen. It was with the Marvel movies. I thought that was funny. I also watched Singing in the Rain, the classic, for the first time. And I watched East of Eden because now I've seen all the James Dean movies.
Been watching a lot of movies. So you get a lot of free time right now?
Yeah, I'm grounded.
Yeah, I know. I was just
still grounded, so.
Yeah, that sucks.
Then what else? I think that's it.
So I have seen something recently this week that I'm sure a lot of people who've watching this have seen, which is WandaVision, which I know that you're skeptical about because it's a Marvel produced. Rightfully so, you're skeptical that it will fall into the bin of Marvel movies because it's no secret that I'd say probably at least 3/4 of Marvel movies have been copies of each other. I happen to be a fan of the format, but you can't make the argument that they're really that different of movies. Like a lot of them literally follow the same plot structure, literally follow the same like to a T. There's like a middle fight, an end fight. There's some drama that happens. They're very formulaic. WandaVision has been completely different though, in a way that I'm still like kind of processing how I feel about it entirely. There has been no action scenes yet. The first 2 episodes have been released. There's been zero fighting, zero, not even really a bad guy. There's no enemy yet. It's just an interesting take on parodying like 50s sitcom, and then I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm trying to stay as generalized as I can.
Well, I mean, I haven't watched it. I saw that in the trailer. So there was the 50s. I know they're doing like generational things.
Yeah. So then, if you saw the trailer, you saw it. So at a certain point, it turns. It goes from black and white to in color. I don't want to spoil how it does that because you see that in the second episode. But it kind of goes for then more of a 70s vibe, 70s sitcom, that 70s show kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting like psychological dive into Wanda. It's not a spoiler to say that Vision's already dead in the Marvel universe. I don't know if you remember that or not. Um,
I
Probably not, since you're not a fan of the movies. Vision has died. He actually died in Infinity War. And so the whole point of this show is that she's kind of creating a fake reality so that she can live this happy life with her husband, who's actually dead. And so that's where
kind
you
of
kind of
dark actually.
exactly. So it's actually like a really deep psychological dive into like her grieving, and because she's one of the most powerful characters in the universe, she's just like lashing out in a really dangerous way. That's really all I want to say without giving anything away. But it's kind of interesting. It's not like the normal Marvel formula, you know.
Well, I read the comics that it's based off of, which is a Vision comic book, where it's just like a whole family of robots, basically.
Hmm.
So I see what they're doing. I actually really like the comic book that it's based off of.
I would give it a shot. You know, there's since it's also episodic. The episodes are only like 30 minutes long. So it would be a good one if you wanted to check it out. You could still be like, no, I don't like this, like halfway through, and you'd only have spent 15 minutes on it, you know?
It's a lot of time. I don't
It is a
know.
lot of time, but I'm kind of hopeful that this is where Marvel wants to go, because I know this is one of the first shows that they're putting out of many. They have a Loki show that they want to do, which I'm pretty excited for because I love Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah,
And
kind of look like him.
that show is supposed to be basically like just Loki pranking people in a show. I think it's supposed to be like because that's his whole character, is just mischievousness.
Yeah,
The one that I'm least excited for is I don't remember what they're calling it. It's Falcon and Winter Soldier. That
I think
might be
that's exactly what it's
that
called.
might be
It's
the title.
so
Yeah.
lame.
And that one I'm way less excited for, but maybe they'll surprise me. But that one, if I had to guess, will fall back into the formula of what they like to do, because you just have two rather uninteresting characters, in my opinion, doing rather uninteresting things. But I don't know.
Like, have you ever watched Agents of Shield?
Yeah, I have, and I remember liking it as a kid and then rewatching it and being like, this is terrible.
Yeah,
Um,
I actually met the cast on one time
mhm.
because I was the same. I liked it when I was a kid, and then I just stopped watching it. But what I do like is the Netflix shows. Those are awesome. Like
Daredevil.
Daredevil, Iron.
Okay, so it's starting to look like, I think I might have talked about this on the podcast before, but in Spider-Man Far From Home, the last Spider-Man come out, he is, spoiler alert, he is outed by J. Jonah Jameson at the end
Yeah,
of the movie. J. Jonah Jameson says Peter Parker is Spider-Man. There is some speculation that the reason they did that is because in the next movie they will bring in the Netflix version of Daredevil, um, because Spider-Man will need to turn to somebody for help, and he'll say, I need your help, Daredevil, and also I need legal representation. So you might get to see that Netflix Daredevil on in a movie soon. I don't know though.
well, I hope so because my dad said that he saw news that Charlie Cox, who plays Daredevil, was seen on the set. So
Really? Well, that
yeah.
seems pretty intriguing.
So if they actually do that, I might actually feel something. I don't know.
Okay, let's get into, what would you like to do, state or national?
Let's start off with state, work our way up.
State of the drip. It's time. We now welcome you to the state of the drip.
It's
Good night,
time.
Connor.
All right, big news from the Community Impact newspaper. Dripping Springs cancels Founders Day Festival for the second year in a row. Gee, I wonder why. Corona. There you go. That's your news.
Okay. Our coronavirus numbers are popping off right now. I personally know my grandma actually has COVID right now.
Oh God.
I haven't seen her recently. It's pretty scary stuff. It's really hard too. She's really struggling with it. It's not, of course, it depends on the person, but you know, it can be a really serious disease. I think that a lot of people are realizing right now that they let their guard down too soon, and it's starting to come back, you know, like
Mhm.
really hard, like in bigger numbers that we've seen it in the country ever before.
I think we hit 400K the other day about people who have died.
So we need to, you know, to everybody out there, it's important that we keep practicing our safe practices because, it's important and it's a hard disease to fight, and we're doing our best to get rid of it. So let's all pull our weight.
Yep.
My news is that Hays County Sheriff's Office is seeking the public's help in IDing some card thieves. They were at a gas station in Austin. A credit card was stolen from a vehicle. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is just because they're looking for the public's help. For all of you listening, the suspects were seen driving a 4-door maroon Chevrolet Malibu with a spoiler on the rear. If any of you seem to know a couple, it's a couple that are the suspects. If any of you know a couple with a 4-door maroon Chevrolet Malibu with a spoiler on the rear, might be worth noting to the Hays County Sheriff's Office. I will, for all of the people watching, I will go ahead and share the screen with images of the perps. Of course, if you're listening, this won't do you any good, but these are the 2 suspects that they are looking to identify. So to all of you watching, there you go.
Why they're wearing a mask? That's gonna be hard to find.
Well, we'll see. They're wearing a mask because they're inside of a gas station. So.
Well, yeah.
Alrighty. Let's go ahead and get into national news. The Nash. So, by the time that this airs, I find it likely that Joe Biden will already be inaugurated. I could be wrong about that. There could be some inauguration chaos that happens, God forbid. There could be, we never know what we'll see after what we saw on the January 6th. But all going according to plan, by the time that this airs, Joe Biden will be our president. So let's talk a little bit about what Joe Biden as president does, because for all of the talk about what Donald Trump hasn't done, it's important that we talk about what Joe Biden will do or should do or hasn't done. This is the chance for us to hold Joe Biden to the same accountability that we wanted to hold Donald Trump to. So let's do it. Let's talk a little bit about what Joe Biden wants to do as the nation's 46th president.
Let's do it.
In terms of, here's what he wants to do today. These are things that he wants to finish today. He wants to issue a mask mandate on federal property and interstate travel. He wants to extend nationwide restrictions on home evictions and foreclosures. He wants to continue to pause student loan payments, and he wants to push for a passage of his $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief legislative package. Within that package contained $1,400 direct deposit checks, which they claimed would, along with the $600 that's already been approved, bring the stimulus to $2,000. I'm of the opinion that they should be doing an additional $2,000 to the $600, but they're doing what they can. They want to expand unemployment insurance by $100, bringing it to a weekly total of $400, and increasing the child tax credit to $3,000 per child. That is what he wants to do about COVID-19 today. And I will say that is more than has been done in a year and a half. And he wants to do it in one day. So say what you will, but that's pretty strong action, I would say. We need to see that continuing forward through his administration. But in terms of a first day, that's a whole lot in a first day.
Yep.
There are a couple Trump decisions that he wants to overturn on his first day. Notably, he wants to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement, something that I couldn't be more in favor of. As a leader of the free world, it's important that we set an example that is one that promotes prosperity and not one that promotes selfishness. So he will be rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement and try to get the United States back on the path to leading towards a clean environment. He wants to end the ban on several Muslim countries that was instituted in 2017. I believe that was one of Trump's first actions in office. It will be Biden's first action in office to get rid of that. This will end the ban on countries such as Syria, Iran, Iraq, Sudan, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen. as well as I believe Nigeria, Myanmar, Tanzania, and maybe a couple others. Now, he wants to rejoin the World Health Organization on his first day. He wants to sign an executive order on his first day to formulate a plan to achieve 100% clean energy economy and net zero emissions by 2050. Let's talk about this one for a second, because it sounds really good when you listen to it. You say 100% clean energy economy and net zero emissions by 2050 is the right path. But coming from my standpoint, I don't think 2050 is nearly quick enough or ambitious enough. You'll have a lot of people say 2050 is more realistic given our technology today, but those people don't understand that technology gets better really fast. And the faster we sink money into it, the quicker that timetable is going to shorten. I think that we're really looking at more closer to 2035 if we spent the right amount of money on figuring out the solutions. I think you could cut that down by 15 years. But for a first day executive order, I'm going to try not to complain too much about that. I think you're going to find a theme with me, Connor, with the Biden administration where, and I'll just say right now, I was a Biden voter, but I will be trying my hardest to be not complaining in these first few weeks, but I probably will, because I want a whole lot more out of the administration than I think they're going to give us immediately. And I understand the reasons why are because we're just at a hard time in the country right now and not a lot can be done. But I don't know how long I'm going to be willing to take that excuse, right? Because that's what it is. And it's an excuse. And I think a month or two down the road, they're going to have to start figuring out how to do this stuff regardless, you know?
Yeah, well, I just want the COVID to be over. So if they're doing something, like anything, then you got my vote. So
they're doing a lot in terms of COVID, and that is undeniably their number one priority right now, and I don't fault them for that. It's a good number one priority. The last couple things that he wants to do on day one, he's going to repeal the transgender military ban. He also wants to restore Obama-era guidance for transgender students in school, and to protect students' access to sports, bathrooms, and locker rooms in accordance with their gender identity. So that's a very positive thing. And then with the environment, he wants to enact an executive order to conserve 30% of America's lands and waters by 2030. That's a much more reasonable date. You thought I was done. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. But his first 100 days also hold some interesting details. He specifically eyeing the economy, which is really rough right now, almost as rough as the pandemic. They're pretty much hand in hand at the moment. He wants to initiate his economic recovery plan in February. He wants to let the first couple weeks of his administration be COVID focused. But they will be spending trillions of dollars on American-made products, health services, and infrastructure updates in an initiative called Build Back Better, the 3 Bs. Climate, he wants to organize a climate world summit in which he will push world leaders to aggressively tackle climate change, specifically addressing global shipping and aviation emissions. This is one of his top priorities. It does not require congressional approval, and the new president has also promised to pressure China to stop subsidizing coal and outsourcing pollution. The last couple things that we'll talk about here, I don't want to spend all of our time on this, but guns. It looks like the FBI is looking into some loopholes in the gun background check system that Mr. Biden would like to close, or I should say President Biden. He's not president yet as of recording of this, but by the time you are all listening to it, he will be. President Biden wants to close those loopholes that allow some people that get guns that shouldn't get guns to get guns. And then he wants to push the Equality Act, a bill to add more protections for LGBT Americans, LGBTQ plus Americans, I should say. And that's kind of the overarching view of the first 100 days of Biden in office. Say what you will, that's a whole lot of work. It's
I thought this was one day. You this is 100 days.
No, everything that I said up until the economic recovery is day one.
Wow. He's
the
gonna
rest
pull an
is just the
all-nighter.
first 100 days. So he's been spending the past, I'd say, month or two that Trump has been spent undermining democracy. He has been sitting with his prospective cabinet trying to formulate these plans. In fact, most of those things that I told you about, Connor, that he wants to do on day one, everything's actually already ready to go. All he has to do is actually be sitting at the desk of president, and the plans are already made. He's already made those plans. And that's why they're going to be rolled out so quickly, is because he's already made them. They're ready to go.
Gotcha.
He just needs to sign them. So that's what a proactive president looks like. And I'm happy to say that I'm at least moderately pleased with the day one plans. Well, I guess we'll talk about it next week and see how it went over.
I'm scared. I don't know what's gonna happen. People are crazy.
Let's go ahead and get into conspiracy corner here.
Let's do it. I mean, speaking of crazy, Jesus. Okay, let's. I chose something relevant for conspiracy corner. So,
does it have to do with Rudy Giuliani's face dye that he uses?
No,
Okay.
I haven't heard of that actually, but we can get into that another time.
Okay.
This is basically just about. I mean, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I don't want to sound like an Alex Jones kooky guy or anything. Just trying to have a little bit of fun on this segment.
Well, nothing. We're not experts in anything. We're having fun.
I mean, I'm the expert in everything, but okay. Anyways, so today we're talking about the Lincoln assassination, and I know it's kind of history, but we're getting into more of the conspiracy aspect of it. So this is Conspiracy Corner, not Ashes of Alexandria.
Tell me about it.
So you know what the history spoiler alert?
Yes, of course.
Abraham Lincoln is dead.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
I don't know. So you know the whole thing. John Wilkes Booth and his gang were like.
I know the whole thing, man. Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to tell our listeners?
Yeah, John Wilkes Booth shoots Abraham Lincoln in Ford's Theater shortly after the ending of the Civil War. Lincoln's plans had been to spend the rest of his presidency reuniting the nation. I believe he was already in his second term, correct? I don't think he had the ability to run for another term. Could be wrong about that, though. But yeah, I believe that because of the shock and awe of what had happened, it was the first time a president had been assassinated. Mr. John Wilkes Booth was able to get away and was led the police on a chase for a long time. I don't know the intricate details of it. I know that he was
in like a farm or a barn.
They apprehended him a whiles away. It was days later, I believe, that they found him, badly wounded, I think. So yeah, go ahead though. You're the expert.
I am the expert. So we're gonna get into like how many conspiracies is it? There's about 3 or 4. So let's jump into it. First we have the simple conspiracy, which is that basically Booth and his ragtag clan, probably clan member friends, planned to kidnap the president. And then that kind of just turned into an assassination. They were also trying to assassinate the vice president Johnson and the Secretary
of State. That sounds familiar.
State.
Assassinating the vice president.
Yeah,
we've seen that rather recently.
Yeah, that's why I chose it. Yeah. So their goal is to like give the South a chance to razz again, brother. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I hope nobody takes a sound bit from that and uses.
And this is after they'd already soundly lost a war. Allow me to remind everyone that flies the Confederate flag outside of their house that they live in the United States, the country that actually defeated the Confederacy. Pretty hands down defeated them after the Confederacy actually tried to overrun the Union and killed many of America's children. But we did beat them pretty soundly.
Straight up tell them, brother.
So good reminder to have.
Yeah. And good reminder. So the next we have more grand conspiracy theory, which is that even though like Lincoln and secretaries of Lincoln presented the simple conspiracy that Booth and his co-conspirators were like suspicious contacts with Confederate leaders. So basically, this focuses on how Booth and Confederate leaders probably, maybe, were involved together.
This is again, we're having a conspiracy corner, and conspiracy corner never seeks to provide detailed fact in history. Whereas this is a speculation segment.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe John Wilkes Booth had contact with Confederate leaders in Canada. Basically, what this is saying.
Okay.
Because I think they were ostracized, weren't they?
Yeah. So when there are terrorist traitors that kill large amounts of your country's youngest men and women in an effort to enslave a race of people because they believe that they're inherently inferior, we typically don't let those guys back into society because we usually decide that those guys are bad guys. And I think that that's probably what happened.
Good guess. I would agree. Yeah.
And, to be fair, like today, a lot of the Confederate soldiers were living in the wrong place at the wrong time, didn't have education and didn't understand a lot of things. But you can't say the same for the people up at the top, those generals, those commanding officers, the people that took charge, But I think that there was a lot of hatred at Lincoln. I think that they viewed him as very similarly today, they viewed his leadership as it was wrong because he was the federal government and he was taking over their state, and they felt like it was a dictatorship, and they felt like this can't be allowed. I'm supposed to have my own rights. And I'm not surprised that there's a conspiracy that they might have wanted Lincoln dead, because a lot of people felt like Lincoln was a dictator, that Lincoln was using his powers too broadly, that he didn't have the authority to tell the states what to do, especially after they had left the Union. But that's why we fought a war,
Yep.
That's history for you.
Well, I've got a
anything
few
else?
more.
Yeah,
I
go.
do. So next we have Eisenschmill's grand conspiracy theory, which is that the Lincoln assassination, as investigated by Otto Eisenschmill, in his book Why Was Lincoln Murdered, it implicated that Secretary of War Edwin Stanton, it implicated him. So he purported, is that a word?
Purported, sure.
Never heard it.
Insinuated.
Insinuated that the traditional explanation of Lincoln's assassination was unsatisfactory, and that General Grant would not have changed his plans to accompany the president to the theater without an order. I forgot to mention that Ulysses S. Grant was going to go to the theater that Lincoln was assassinated at with him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little odd that he just kind of canceled on my boy Lincoln.
Okay.
So
sure thing. That is a little odd. Ulysses S. Grant was a G, though. We should all. I did a project on him once when I was in like elementary school, and I had a fake beard and stuff. I had to pretend that I was Ulysses.
I had
S.
one
Grant.
of those too. I was Paul Revere, yeah.
And that was actually a lot of fun. But yeah, Ulysses S. Grant was a G.
Yeah, wasn't he president too at some point?
Maybe. Look, once you're getting out of the realm of like FDR, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, I'm not great at like the Buchanan presidents,
Don't even know who that is. So
James Buchanan might have been one of them. I know their names. I just don't know like anything that they did or when they were president.
Yeah. Well, he might have been president. So
I think he was. I'm pretty sure
he was. Anyways, so Um, so Stanton might have been who I just mentioned, Secretary of War Edward Stanton, which who we just said was implicated and possibly implicated. Um, so he said that Grant might have taken orders from Stanton to because Stanton took office immediately after the assassination. So basically, there might have been some ulterior motives on the inside. Not saying Grant did anything, but Stanton might have been a little more, been like, you get how do I word this? Logan, you're a good Connor translator. What am I saying?
I don't know, man.
That okay, so there might have been people on the inside. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm reading an interesting quote right now. Sorry, I was a little distracted. I'm reading Frederick Douglass's response to President Lincoln's first inaugural address, in which he's recounting the events that have happened previously, prior to the Civil War, in a way that is just very interesting when you think about today. He says threats of violence, rebellion, and violence and assassination had been freely, though darkly, circulated as among the most probable events to occur on that memorable day. The outgoing administration, either by its treachery or weakness or both, had allowed the government to float to the very edge of destruction. Fear amounting to agony in some minds existed that the great American Republic would expire the very moment of his inauguration. Once in Washington, Mr. Lincoln found himself in the thick atmosphere of treason on the one hand and a cowardly, sentimental, deceitful profession of peace on the other. I just find the quote very interesting when you think about today. Talking about, I don't need to explain it. You get it.
Yeah, that's why I chose this in the first place. I thought it was it's inauguration day. I thought it'd be cool to choose something relevant. So,
and hey, it's inauguration day. No matter who you are, let's celebrate as an American that we are still like doing this president thing, and that we don't have like that our whole system hasn't been thrown out the window yet. This is another 4 years in which like it worked. We actually did it. We're at an inauguration. A lot of Americans take for granted the fact that an inauguration doesn't have to happen. There's some countries on this planet that don't need an inauguration, whose leader just doesn't do that kind of thing, and even with Donald Trump as president, we've still managed to get to this inauguration day in which the powers transfer, and no matter who it goes to, that's a positive thing. That just goes to show, even since the days of Lincoln, that has not changed. A lot of people don't know Lincoln was only our 16th president. When the Civil War happened, we were only 16 presidents in.
yeah,
That's pretty insane to think about. That's a young nation. We're
yeah,
still a pretty young nation.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Red Dead. It really puts things into perspective.
Doesn't it? That's a great game.
It really
Great
is.
game, by the way.
Yeah. It's kind of weird how we've kind of evolved quickly, technologically at least.
Definitely. So, do you have anything else to say about your thing? Your conspiracy corner.
I just woke up. I might not have said it the best I could have, but inside job, outside jobs. Lincoln is dead either way. Yes.
He didn't get to come back. So John Wilkes Booth was killed when Union soldiers tracked him down to a Virginia farm 12 days after he had assassinated the president. After shooting Lincoln, he had jumped to the stage below Lincoln's box seat, where he landed really hard, breaking his leg. And that's when I said earlier that he'd been shot, that's what I was thinking of. He'd broken his leg, and then he escaped to a horse that he had waiting behind the theater. And those 12 days in which he was running from Union soldiers were pretty dramatic, if I remember correctly. He had plans to meet up with conspirators. I'm reading here that he was actually aided by a network of conspirators who attempted to hide him from Union soldiers. This was at a point in time where there were enough Confederate sympathizers that would, hail him for assassinating the president.
Yeah.
as crazy as that is, he was able to. He was. Oh, sorry, I'm getting sound from my tab that I don't want. There we go. He was able to be hidden by his fellow Confederate soldiers.
Yeah.
For
Well
12
put.
days. For 12 days.
Yep.
So Chris is here. I'm going to bring him in, and we're going to get going with an album. So get an album ready, Connor.
Oh, yeah.
Be prepared.
Wait, let me get prepared. Let's find one. Go ahead, though.
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
It's going good. How about you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. You know, we've just been talking about some of the stuff going on today, Inauguration Day. There's some local news going on. But do you have an album for us?
Yeah, I do actually.
All right. What is it?
Songs for Dads by the Walters.
Let me look it up. Tell me a little bit about
it. It's like a love album in a sense.
Okay. That's cool.
By an indie band called the Walters, which like sadly broke up in 2019.
Okay. I'm noticing a theme with the albums that you represent or that you present to us, which is that I really like the album cover artwork on all of them. This is a really cool album cover that I'm looking at. Here, let me try to share my screen for everybody that's watching. Let's see. Here we
go. Wow. Is that a dad? Is it a song for that dad? What's going on?
So it looks like it's got 6 songs on it. Which of these songs are your favorite, Chris?
So my favorites are I Love You So, Fancy Shoes, and Old Friend.
Okay. Do you have a least favorite?
Least favorite? Not really. All of them are really good.
Yeah. And does it kind of stick to that, like, what you'd expect from an indie album, or is it weird in a certain way?
It's kind of what you'd expect from an indie album.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I listened to that Oliver Tree album after our last podcast again to refresh myself on it. It's so good. I love Oliver Tree.
I know, so good.
What do you got first, Connor? You got anything?
I got something. My album is called Heartbreak in Stereo by Pincy Prep. Came out in 2002. Interesting story, really. It kind of just came out this year, but it also came out in 2002 because Frank Iero, who is the rhythm guitarist and singer of this band, is also known for his My Chemical Romance fame. And he finally got this album out to the public this year. And I also like the artwork on this one.
I was gonna say I also really like the artwork on this one.
So so it kind of just came out, but also came out in 2002. If you get what I'm saying. So,
what's your favorite song on here, Connor?
Favorite song on here is Yesterday.
Familiar song title. What is your least favorite song?
Shut up, Beatles fan. Kind of with Chris on this one. I don't really have one. I think it kind of. I'm
a very negative person. My least favorite and everything.
The songs kind of sound the same, but like in a good way. So.
Okay.
I also really like 8th Grade and P.S. Don't Write, but it's just a really good album, to be honest. You think it'd be more like I mentioned My Chemical Romance. You'd probably be like, oh, it's really emo. That's one way to look at it. But I think Frank Iero is pretty punk rock, so this is a pretty strong album in general. It says it's indie rock on Apple Music, but call it what you will. Doesn't matter. It's a good album.
All right.
Go listen to it.
I'm going to go with a Rush album today. Connor, I know you're a big fan of Rush. I don't know, Chris, if you've ever listened to Rush at all.
I do not believe so.
I've seen Rush live, not to flex too hard on anyone, but
seriously?
I have. I saw them on their last tour before, sadly, their drummer Neil Peart passed away of brain cancer, I believe. But this is the album that I'm going to go with. Sorry. There we go. 2112. Now, one thing you'll notice immediately about this is that the first song takes up the entire first half of the album. That's the entire front side of the record. It's a 20-minute song that includes, what is this? About 7 or 8 different. But you get the idea. It's kind of it's a very experimental album put out by Rush. It's kind of hailed as their masterpiece, I guess you would say. Although I don't know if it's my favorite that they ever did, but it's a great album worth listening to. Temples of Syrinx being my favorite part of the album right there.
Yeah, I think on the radio they play like segments of 2112.
They do, yeah. They can never play the whole thing.
Temple of Syrinx that they play.
The Temples of Syrinx is probably the most like radio friendly part of the album, I would say, just because the rest is so like ethereal and experimental that you wouldn't probably play that on the radio because most people wouldn't listen to it for that long.
Yeah,
but that's my album.
From a musician standpoint, I love Rush, but I hate Geddy Lee because his stuff, I don't know how he sings and plays that stuff. It's so impressive.
Seeing him do it live is even more impressive because guess what, Connor? He doesn't just play the bass and sing, but he also plays the keyboard live too. Whoa. At the same time. He'll be like going back and forth from playing the bass to the keyboard while singing the entire time.
Yeah, I'm so jealous. It's really impressive.
Yeah, so that's pretty insane. That's my album though. Got anything to add, Chris? If not, we're probably going to call it a day.
No, not really.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Remember to, if this comes out before the inauguration, go watch it live. If not, then I guess we've got a new president and we'll see where it goes from there. We'll see you all next week. We'll talk about what has happened in the first week of the Biden administration, critique what we don't like and compliment what we do like, and see where it goes. Have an amazing week, everyone. Take care, be safe, keep your family safe. Don't risk yourself with the COVID. It ain't no joke. All right. Thanks, guys, for joining me. Connor, you've been a great co-host. Chris, thank you for your music advice. We always love your suggestions. Cool stuff. I'm going to go check out that album right after we finish here. Bye, everyone.
Check out mine too.
See you later.
Okay,
yep.
bye.
See ya.